Hello and welcome to Broadsword Wargaming. My name is Oliver and this is my first YouTube video in 4 months. That is by far the longest break I've ever taken in the 8 years of doing this. I guess the reason I've taken so long to do a video is I've probably been overthinking it. Is this the right topic? Is this the right project? Is this good enough? And that actually leads me quite nicely onto what I want to talk about today.
I've been involved in Warhammer for around 35 years. I started as a kid and I've collected more armies than I can remember. I've painted thousands of models, played through countless editions, made videos about it for the best part of 8 years, and eventually did the completely sensible thing of opening my own hobby shop. So you'd think I'd have Warhammer pretty much figured out by now. Well, I don't. I've got a ridiculous number of models and enough unfinished projects to keep me going for the rest of my life. But I don't really have a fully painted army that I regularly play with. I haven't played 40k properly in a few editions, and there are entire games that have completely passed me by. I think somewhere along the way, Warhammer slowly became something I worked around more than something I actually did, and recently I really wanted to change that.
This got me thinking, what would I do differently if I were starting the hobby again? Now obviously I'm not starting from scratch, right? I have paints, models, a space, but I don't feel like I have the same time or the same mental capacity to do the hobby in the way I used to do it. My life has changed a lot. We had a baby a couple of years ago. I've got a kid starting secondary school. We moved house. I've got a new studio. The shop is still growing, along with all the other things that change as you get a bit older. So for folks out there returning to the hobby or wanting to start the hobby, I'm hoping some of the things I think about or talk about today you might find useful. The first thing I would do is start small. It's so easy to get carried away, and you think of the hobby, or you look at YouTube videos and you think of the hobby as this full game, right? It has to be a 2,000 point army with a few points to spare in case you want to swap something out. So you go out and you buy the starter set, then you buy the combat patrol, then you buy a unit you like, then you buy the centerpiece thing you really think looks cool. And before you know it, you're looking at a full collection of models before you've even painted your first model or set.
I've done that so many times, and something that started off being exciting can, for me, very quickly become this enormous list of things I have to do. Even a starter set or just a squad and a character you really like gives you something manageable that you can get stuck into.
This is probably the biggest one for me. As someone who runs and owns a hobby shop, I spend my life surrounded by miniatures, but I actually play very few games.
Now, a few years ago, I played in a Lord of the Rings double event with Benji from Benji's Hobbies, a good friend of mine. I'd barely played the game, I didn't really know what I was doing, I picked it up as I went along, but rather than worrying about taking something particularly good, we picked an army we liked, kept it fairly fluffy, painted up, and went away from the weekend. It's the same as when my brothers and I used to go into Games Workshop Peterborough back in the 90s and early 2000s.
We used to turn up and play games, and I'd turn up with my box of Undead for Fantasy and my Space Wolves or Eldar or Dark Angels, whatever army I had at the time, for games. And you just turn up and meet random people and play a random sized game on a 4x4 board until 8 PM. And it was awesome. Honestly, life memories like still unlocked. I remember Jeff, Paul, Alan, Colin, all the different managers down there as well. And it was such a nice experience. And yeah, 35 years later, I still think about that.
Slightly weirdly, I now run Thursday night gaming in my own shop. I hadn't really thought about the parallel until recently, but I used to turn up at Games Workshop with my brothers looking for a game, and now I'm the one opening the doors and putting the tables out. We've had people come in not knowing anybody, arrange a game, come back the next week, and eventually become friends, and that's genuinely one of my favourite things about the whole hobby. Speaking of playing, I want to quickly tell you about this video's sponsor, Infinity Hexadome Tactics. It's a fast-paced 1v1 turn-based arena game launching on September the 10th, and you can wishlist it on Steam right now. It brings Corvus Belli's Infinity Universe to PC for the first time, and the easiest way I can describe it is basically a miniature skirmish game just on your computer. You build a team from 12 different champions, each filling a different battlefield role: snipers, bruisers, support characters, and so on. Then there's also a deck building element, with each character bringing their own tactics cards that you can combine with the rest of your team. A good example is Gator here. She uses Hexa's ultimate card, Unlimited Power, to push every other champion out of the objective zone, giving Gator control despite Hexa being all the way over on the other side of the board. It's all about movement, positioning, abilities, and controlling objectives, the sort of stuff we're used to thinking about on the tabletop. There are a few different ways to play too, with competitive matches and tournaments already happening in the game's Discord, as well as friendly games and a single-player narrative campaign. If this sounds like your sort of thing, I'll leave the Steam page and Discord down in the description. You can wishlist Infinity Hexadome Tactics now, ahead of its full release in September the 10th. Right, let's get back to the video. I'd also spend a lot less time worrying about what I should be painting and pay more attention to the things I actually like.
Over the years, I've seen armies be terrible in the rules, then 6 weeks later be amazing, and then 2 weeks later be terrible, and then 6 weeks later we've got a new edition. And what was once an awesome model is replaced by something else, and with that your hobby joy kind of wanes a little bit because you don't want to finish the project because you already moved on to something else.
Now, I've never been particularly good at keeping up with the newest releases, although I've definitely tried. A new box arrives, everybody's talking about it, and I feel like I need to get it built, painted, filmed, and turned into a video as quickly as possible. I hate painting like that. It becomes a race against time, and I'm thinking about getting the video finished rather than enjoying what I'm doing, and something I was really excited about suddenly feels like work again. Some of my favourite models I've painted simply because I wanted to paint them. The Avatar of Cain is a good example. I love that model, I've always loved that model, and I wanted to paint one, so I did. Now I'm painting Soul Drinkers again for the second time, which should probably tell me something. There are factions I always seem to come back to, and perhaps I don't always need to convince myself that I should be doing something completely new.
It also doesn't matter if you don't get around to finishing the models until 6 months after everyone else has. The models themselves aren't going to get any worse.
If you're choosing an army, I think there's something to be said for paying attention to the models and factions you naturally keep coming back to, whether that's because of the miniatures, the lore, or just because you think they're cool.
Painting is another part of the hobby where I think it's really easy to make life difficult for yourself. YouTube and Instagram weren't about before, now they are, and I used to paint a model, feel pretty good about it, and move on. But now it's so easy to get distracted or to feel bad about what you've finished.
I've painted a lot of Space Marines since then, in loads of different ways. I've spent ages on individual models, tried different airbrush techniques, washes, highlights, contrast paints, and pretty much everything else in between. Eventually, now I think I've found techniques where I can get them to a standard I'm really happy with, without every squad taking me the rest of my life. And that's probably the balance we all need to find with an army.
There's always another highlight you could add, always another blend you could do, always some more chipping you could do, always some more weathering, but at some point you just have to finish the models. And I want to do just that. I want an army I can play with. I want an army I can be proud of, that looks good and is up to a standard I'm comfortable with, but I also just want to finish the bloody thing.
That leads me nicely into the last thing I change, and that's trying to finish more of the things I start. I'm not going to pretend I'm good at this. I've made 2 separate pile of shame videos, and I still have a pile of shame. One thing that does seem to work for me is having a reason to finish a project. Kira and I have painted quite a few entire boxes for videos over the years, including Leviathan, Horus Heresy, Cursed City, and a few others, and the ones I've enjoyed the most are generally the ones I've ended up with something I can actually use. The Horus Heresy box is a great example. We painted the whole thing, and at the end I had a playable force I could put on the table. Now, unfortunately, there were word bearers, and I don't even like the word bearers, but I still really enjoyed having a finished army. I think that's what I'm missing with a lot of the random stuff I've accumulated. I've got individual units, characters, half-started armies, and boxes I've bought because I thought I'd do something with them eventually, whereas having an actual goal seems to work better for me.
It doesn't have to be some horrible deadline. Maybe I just want something finished for an event, and maybe I just want something finished for the store. It doesn't really matter, but that sense of achievement when you do finish something is great, and it's nice to have something you can look back on.
Starting projects, I think, is the easy bit. I'm excellent at starting projects. I'm a pro. It's normally somewhere around Space Marine number 27 that things start to go wrong, and I figure out that there's something else I'd rather do instead.
Now, at the start of this video, I asked the question, what would I do differently if I started the hobby again? And as this has gone on, I think I've realized that's not really what I'm talking about. I think what I'm talking about is trying to find the parts of the hobby I enjoy again and making sure I continue enjoying them. Whether that's painting, whether that's playing, whether that's collecting, whether that's 90s nostalgia stuff, whether that's upcoming new stuff, whether it's the lore, whatever element of the hobby out there that you enjoy, and I just stick with it, I think. Whether you're returning back to the hobby and your life has moved on and you don't have the time or the ability to do the things you used to do. Don't worry about it. I just want this to be sort of a positive, thoughtful piece that you might find useful in your day-to-day life. I don't mean it's going to change your lives, I just mean in your hobby life. I sit here looking about, and it's old stuff right now that's exciting me, but I know that'll move on when I get some cool new models. And it's so important to make sure we enjoy our hobbies. Life can be difficult at times, and I've struggled mentally these last few years, and this has always been there for me, and I just want to make sure you out there are, whatever's going on in your life, you're still enjoying it, because that's what it's about. It's about meeting people, it's about playing games, it's about having some free space, or freeing the mind up, or listening to a podcast, or talking with your friends down the store, or talking with your friends on Discord, whatever it is. It's the social aspect, and it's just the enjoyment, and not using the words like work. Sure, for me it is like work sometimes, but I always hear people ask the question, what are you working on? And I don't think that's really the right language to use, and somehow it's become what we all use, and I understand why. But by putting that, you call it work, right? And you go, I've got 20 guys I'm painting, 20 Marines, and I'm working on these, and working on this, and it shouldn't feel that way, and I know it does at times, of course it does. But I don't want it to feel that way for people. I want people to have a good time. That's the whole reason why I started the channel. That's why it's taken me so long to come back to doing videos, because I haven't enjoyed it for a while. So maybe just thinking about these things and talking about them now, I feel differently. I feel more enthusiastic, and I feel ready to go back to projects I know I want to do, and things I feel like I'm missing. And it's just been nice to talk about it, and to think about it, and to write it down. And that, I think, is probably the point I'm trying to put across here.
So maybe that's what starting Warhammer again means to me. It's not literally starting over, it's just getting back to the bits of the hobby that I actually enjoy. Anyway, it's good to be back. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please do make sure to check out all the links down below to my store, to the channel Patreon, there's a shop Discord, our sponsor for this video, everything else down there. I appreciate you all, so thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one.